Baba knows the way. For Joseph Baba Ifa, Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the Orishas through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Hey family, thank you for tuning in to Our Roots podcast with Joseph Baba Ifa. Where only the strongest roots see the light, brought to you by Botanical Candles and more. And if you haven't had the opportunity, hit that subscribe button. Phil the podcast doctor.
Hey, my mic is working today.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You're not being attacked back there.
Not being attacked. How are you, man? Happy Sunday.
I know. Sometimes when I say and hit that subscribe button, I want to do the Uncle Sam.
Oh,
but I don't want
there
to
you
put
go.
the camera
I'm
out
gonna
of
use that for the
focus.
screenshot for the
Yeah.
thumbnail.
Oh, man.
Do it again.
Do your bowl, you know?
That's good, man. But yeah, man, glad to be here.
Yeah.
Hope everyone's doing well. Still need a kidney, so
Yep.
you guys can go to my website if you want to. It's 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲.com. Everything is there. Yeah, everything is there. If you want to be a donor, want to come to the event, if you want to donate money, you can do all that. So shout out to 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲.com.
Absolutely, man. And today's episode is going to be OYA, the warrior queen. We can't get sued for that, right, Phil? Because
I mean, no, I don't think so. I don't think that is trademark because I mean, we had the warrior princess, we had the woman king.
okay.
Yeah, so I think we're scraping the lines there. I don't think that we've combined them both until now.
So it's completely original. And that's what we're sticking to. But I've always said that, in my humble opinion, OYA is the most complete feminine Orisha in the whole pantheon. I mean, this lady, she's lightning, she's thunder, she's fire, she's a river deity. She represents the marketplace, the cemetery. She was a mother, a wife, a queen, a buffalo. You know, there's so many things about her that make her so diverse and eclectic. You know, we've had a podcast interview about her before, but we really wanted to get into all of the facets of her personality in a full episode such as this. So, do you have any questions about OYA? Has she ever piqued any interest?
Well, there's one particular story that made me. I think it was like the first story you really told me about Ifa, and it was. I will never, ever, ever forget it. So every time you bring up OYA, I have to ask you to please retell the story of the 𝗃𝗏𝗋𝗄s.
Absolutely, that's horrible. We're gonna get into that one. I don't want to kick off with that one because I really want to set the stage.
Okay,
you know,
okay,
but we're definitely gonna get into that one because that is another aspect of her personality. You know, I mean, her as a woman, it's definitely one that shows how, you know, around certain people in a toxic situation could cause you to take drastic measures. And one thing we can't avoid speaking about, or person we can't avoid speaking about when it comes to OYA, is 𝗀𝗏𝗄.
Of course.
𝗀𝗏𝗄, that was her man all the way. Really tumultuous, passionate relationship that they had. I mean, we're still talking about it till this day. They're so interconnected in every way, shape, and form, to the point where I think from an initiation standpoint, to be able to initiate into 𝗀𝗏𝗄, you have to have an OYA priestess there to help facilitate the process. So, you know, you can't even manifest the guy without her being there. And when we go back to the Odu Ifá, it speaks about the commencement of their interaction and relationship and things like that. Now, mind you, they were courting each other. Everything was going all right. And 𝗀𝗏𝗄 decided to get a divination, right, as well as OYA on separate occasions based on their new arrangement. And the Odu Ifá was revealed for both of them. And 𝗀𝗏𝗄 was told to perform sacrifice to not live at the behest and fear of his wife. And 𝗀𝗏𝗄 was like, I'm not doing that, bo. No woman is going to strike fear into my heart. And OYA was told to perform sacrifice to be in a long-lasting marriage where her husband would acquiesce to whatever she asked. And by golly, she did that ebo. And one day, when Shango was going through his motions of getting bored, because he was somebody that had a wavering eye, you know, he stood up OYA, and he ditched her, and he tried to ghost her, and all these different things. Real toxic dating. And OYA said, oh no, not me. And she had actually gotten the secret of his witchcraft, to be able to shoot fire out of her mouth, lightning, all these different things. So she found him, and she found him in full form. And when he saw her, he was completely terrified by her. And she said, "You're with me?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am." So in 𝗃𝗏𝗿𝗄 is when Shango got scared into a relationship with his wife. And he stayed with her out of fear. Until this day, they're still together, where they say that the only woman to ever dominate Shango completely and entirely was OYA. So this is an interesting dynamic, right? But because innately, she wasn't a fire deity. She became that being with Shango. Innately, she had nothing to do with electricity, but she became the lightning to his thunder. And this actually benefited him quite a bit, because one day, Shango got sick, right? And he had a pretty weak immune system, apparently. When you look at various patakis, he was always with some kind of ailment. So being that he couldn't lead the army, she grew a beard and went to war for him. That's why OYA is seen as the buffalo woman. You know, that concept can be found in the Odu Ifá, as well as in the Odu Ifá. And they say that, you know, she stormed the battlefield like thunder. Once again, the complement, thunder, lightning, etc. And she led his army to victory, because they thought that she was Shango. And when the battle was done, you know, they came back congratulating Shango and 𝗃𝗏𝗿𝗄. That was an amazing battle, and you rode in like thunder. And he's like, bro, I'm just getting over a cold. What are you talking about? And then OYA showed up with her beard, which magically disappeared. And she said, don't worry, honey, I took care of it for us. And, you know, once again, he was shook, you know, and 𝗃𝗏𝗿𝗄, you know, Shango just lived in fear of his wife. And, you know, so he kept her close. But there's an interesting concept, because Shango is seen as one of the progenitors of the lineage of kings in Oyo, right? Going all the way back to Oramiyang, debatably back to Odu Ifá, depending on the historian that you speak to. So the kings of Oyo are known as the Aláàfin, right? Aláàfin means owner or occupant of the palace, right? So the actual palace is known as Afin. So the interesting thing is that represents Shango, right? It represents the palace, the crown, the royal throne. The palace is a manifestation of Shango and himself. But the palace is always surrounded by a marketplace. And the word OYA and OJA are synonymous. The word OJA with a J means marketplace, and Y, with the one with the Y, means the Orisha OYA. And the reason they just changed it slightly is because they're synonymous. Because the same way OYA protected Shango in battle is the same way the marketplace surrounds the palace to protect it and create a layer or barrier. The same way OYA is the marketplace and Shango is the palace. So these two deities are completely interlocked. You know, they're some people would say toxic, some people would say star-crossed, but either way, they're always together, you know? So that's how she became queen. You know, we're also talking about a deity of the utmost regalness. You know, a lot of people associate the title Iyalode with Oshun. It actually resonates a little bit more with OYA, because it means mother of nations, mother of the town. And OYA, some would debatably say, was the first one to ever have that title. And that's more of an 𝗃𝗏𝗿𝗄 concept. So when we talk about OYA, she was a woman's woman, right? There's even a story in the Odu Ifá where she saved the religion and the Yoruba clan in general. So Olofin had sons. One was Shango, one was Ogun, Eshu, Oshosi, Osain. whoever. And it was time to go to war. So the men left. But it took longer than they thought. So they didn't leave enough provisions for people to survive. So people were starting to go hungry, specifically Olofin. And OYA was his daughter. Now, mind you, OYA had all brothers. She was raised by her father. You know, she knew how to do everything. She was an outdoors woman. She'd ride a horse. She'd shoot a bow and arrow. She'd kill a cow and completely process it. Like, she was as independent as it gets. And at the same time, she was still a woman's woman. So realizing the plight that they were going through, she went to her father and kneeled and said, "Father, you're going to die unless we feed you and unless I feed the people. Please lift the ban or the curse on women holding the knife so that I can go and hunt and provide for you." And initially he didn't want to do it because he knew how the response would be, but people were going hungry and no one knew how to hunt because all the hunters and warriors had gone to battle. So she went and started hunting, right? Deer, fowl, whatever it was that she could get, buffalo, oxen, and she started processing it and providing it to the people, principally her father. When she did that, he recuperated his strength. And around the same time, the men returned. And he looked at them and said, "Man, if I would have waited any longer for y'all, I'd be dead. You know, thank heavens for your sister. You know, she was able to provide." So from this day forward, in circumstances of subsistence or survival, women can sacrifice. So when we look at like my old Puerto Rican aunt who would take a hen and do what she had to do to make sancocho, that's not taboo at all. And when you look at a situation where, you know, like initially in Cuba where there weren't male priests and things like that, and women really helped the religion survive, they were given the green light to sacrifice. 𝗀𝗏𝗋𝗋 is where the pinadu was born, which is the knife of the Orisha. But technically, the person is already born with it. It's meant for survival, right? Or for spiritual progress. Where the Orisha is actually born, the male Orisha is actually born with the right to sacrifice four-legged animals, birds, whatever to the Orishas they received. Now, where women are able to is obviously within survival mode or in the absence of male priests. Now, mind you, that's pretty far-fetched at this point, but we don't know what the future holds, right? And God forbid, we may be in a situation where there aren't any male priests in a certain place and women are the ones who have to maintain the stability and survival of the religion like they have for centuries before. And just like that, OYA was a champion. She was a champion of femininity, she was a champion of survival, and she was regarded and recognized as equal to the male Orishas, you know? So when we look at this pataki, you know, it shows just another layer of her personality and her ingenuity and her resilience. You know, we're talking about a princess who literally knew how to do everything and was able to save her palace and kingdom because of it. So, you know, she was a hunter. She was, you know, an archer. She was all these different things, and it served her well, and it solidified her in her place as most versatile of the female Orishas for sure. So, wild stuff. You know what it reminds me of, Phil? You ever seen the movie 300, number 2?
Yeah.
What was the name of the lady that Mysticles was, or he was with?
Oh God, I can't remember.
The one with the black, I kind of, when I think of OYA, I think of her. Okay. You know, when she would go to war and stuff like that, because OYA was all those things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, if you haven't, definitely watch that movie. That'll give you a good idea of OYA as well. It's for adults, by the way. And but definitely another aspect. Now, the story that Phil is persisting on me saying shows another aspect of OYA's character, which isn't as flattering. OYA, you know, she was with Shango, and she loved Shango, and Shango was like, you know, it was just her. She was very infatuated with him. But he was technically married to another woman. He was married to Obanani. So that left her with the position of concubine, one she was not appreciative of. And, you know, Shango, even though he was married to Oba, was always going to visit Oya. So Oba, you know, being a mature woman, went to Oya and said, "Hey, you know, I know our husband goes and visits you, but I'd love to know what I can incorporate. So maybe we could balance out the the workload a little bit, you know, so you can visit me and you and etc. And she said, oh yeah, what I do is I cut off pieces of my ear and put it in his cornmeal. And she was like, wow, that's really unorthodox. She's like, you should try it. And she's like, I will. And 𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 one day cut off her whole ear, wanting 𝘀𝗵𝗲 to focus more on her, and put it in the cornmeal. And when he came home, 𝘀𝗵𝗲 saw 𝗶𝗶𝗶 for the first time in history, a head wrap. And he's like, oh, that's really interesting. You came up with that? She's like, yeah, I'm trying something new. And, you know, she's like, I made your favorite cornmeal. He's like, oh, yeah, or the 𝗵𝗲𝗶𝗶, which is from the yam. And, you know, he started eating it. But he's like, man, this tastes really irony. You know, it's good, but I don't know. And then he looked and he said, why are you bleeding where your ear is? And she was like, oh, I think I might have scratched it. But then, you know, he looked and he started noticing blood in his porridge. He ripped off her headdress, saw an ear was missing. He looked in his porridge, found the ear, and he completely lost it. He said, you know, what kind of cannibalism is this? What have you done? She said, no, I did it because OYA said she does it for you too, and you'd like it. And he said, well, if you would have looked at her ear, you would know that she's not missing any piece. You know, she lied to you. And because of this, I can never be with you again. I mean, I won't divorce you, but me and you, we're done. And he went running to OYA's house. And, you know, the story with 𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 afterwards is sad. If you look at the Odu Ifá, 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲, 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗃, you know, it speaks of her process afterwards, right? But when we talk about OYA's character, you know, it was pretty vicious in that regard. She was a hunter, and she didn't want anything to come in between her and her prize, which in this case was 𝘀𝗵𝗲, right? So it's an aspect of her personality that really isn't that refined. It isn't that, you know, commendable. But it is who she was. You know, she was fire. She was lightning. She was willing to do whatever it took to get what she wanted in that regard. So, you know, when it came to saving her people and, you know, survival, very positive traits. But when it came to the social aspect of things, she was a buffalo, right? OYA as well showed a similar behavior in the Odu Ifá, or 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲. And what happened is 𝘀𝗵𝗲 in this case was the buffalo. This is also why OYA is so associated with the buffalo. And we'll get into the pataki from 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗶 and 𝘃𝗶𝗶𝗲 shortly to further this this stance as well, because it goes into so many other things. But once again, if you notice from all these stories, it's OYA, 𝘀𝗵𝗲, OYA, 𝘀𝗵𝗲, OYA, 𝘀𝗵𝗲. They really defined each other, going all the way back to 𝗃𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃. They loved each other, but they feared each other. I can't even say it was necessarily respect. It was that they, you know, they lived in constant caution of each other. And so in the Odu Ifá was where 𝘀𝗵𝗲 was a buffalo. And he had actually gained this talent from OYA. OYA taught him quite a bit as well, and she taught him how to become a buffalo as well. So, you know, based on his condition of buffalo, he had a bunch of partners, right? But OYA was very jealous, you know, and she didn't want him with anybody else, you know, ergo the story we just told about 𝗶𝗶𝗶. So she started doing witchcraft to him, which was the only productive thing to do. And he started feeling the effects very negatively to the point where he fell comatose. So days went by. 𝘀𝗵𝗲 wasn't leaving his bedchamber. People started getting worried. They're like, is he dead? So the only one who went in there to see him was 𝗃𝗵𝗃. And this is a very key relationship as well as we delve into further patakis, because the love triangle that develops from here is really a defining one throughout the rest of OYA's story. And when 𝗃𝗵𝗃 went in, she saw 𝘀𝗵𝗲 half dead. She called Orumela, divination. 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲 was revealed, where Ifá told them that they needed to perform sacrifice to Ori or an Ibori with beef, specifically a nerve from a bull. And that's actually a very important head rogation for anybody who is 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲. And when they did the head rogation, 𝘀𝗵𝗲 sprang up as if, you know, a moment had passed. And he saw 𝗃𝗵𝗃 and Orula, and he said, what are you guys doing in my room? And Orula said, this lady came and found me because she found you half dead, and, you know, you were like comatose. And you know, we don't know what's going on with you, but Ifá said to do this, and we did, and here you are again. But it says that it was a result of witchcraft. So do you know anybody that might want to do witchcraft to you? He said, the only person I can think of is my girlfriend. You know, I don't spend as much time with her as I should, but to be honest with you, she's getting a little toxic, and I don't know if it's healthy. I'm scared she's going to hurt me. And Odula was like, she probably is. And, you know, he was very grateful of 𝗀𝗻𝗃. 𝗀𝗻𝗃 nursed him back to health, facilitated all of his 𝗵𝗍s. And, you know, they ended up actually falling in love with each other. And 𝗀𝗻𝗃 said, hey, you know, I really can't deal with your past. So I'd like to move somewhere, you know, maybe closer to where I'm from, so that we can have some peace and be able to, you know, develop a relationship. Because as long as we're here and people see us together, you know, this other woman that you were with is not going to let this go. So it's probably best that we move, you know, and apart from that, to fully solidify her not being able to affect you, you should probably initiate into Orisha as well. And he accepted all of it and followed all of her advice. And just that happened. 𝗀𝗃 initiated into 𝗀𝗻𝗃, or not into 𝗀𝗻𝗃, he initiated into Orisha, forgive me. And him and 𝗀𝗻𝗃 went back to where she was from to be able to start a life, and they were very happy, and did so. And OYA, from that day forward, always cursed 𝗀𝗃, but being that it was out of sight and out of mind, I mean, it wasn't able to have the effect she was looking for. So, you know, once again, showing this behavior of whatever it takes. But now we have this other player in this game, which is 𝗀𝗻𝗃, right? And even though it doesn't necessarily follow the storyline chronologically, it is a revolving door to a certain degree. I mean, one quick thing about OYA and 𝗀𝗃, right? Innately, they didn't have any issues. There is a pataki that's floating out there, and this may be in the Odu Ifá, I don't know. But where originally, supposedly, OYA was the owner of the cemetery, or OYA was the owner of the ocean, and 𝗀𝗃 was the owner of the cemetery. Once again, very debatable pataki. I don't know how authentic it is. I'm not saying it's not, but you know, this is just what I'm deducing, because I haven't gotten a definitive answer from all my brothers and colleagues as to where this is. But it might be Osa Ogunda, based on the characteristics. And 𝗀𝗃 wanted a different domain. OYA was very happy, but she looked up to 𝗀𝗃. And, you know, 𝗀𝗃 manipulated her into switching places, because when 𝗀𝗃 brought OYA to the cemetery, you know, it looked lofty and spacious, and it had acreage and all these different things. And OYA was like, yeah, I could work with this. You know, I'm really tired of the ocean, not realizing what she had was so valuable. So they did the switcheroo. And OYA, when she actually walked into the cemetery, realized, hey, this isn't the place to be, but she couldn't undo it. And 𝗀𝗃 was perfectly happy by the seashore, selling seashells. And it always gets me. And from that day forward, OYA cursed 𝗀𝗃. But there's an interesting thing here, is that a lot of people say OYA is the owner of the cemetery. Well, based on this pataki, technically, even if she does own it, she only is on the perimeter. OYA is actually characterized by the fence that always surrounds the cemetery. Who actually lives in the cemetery is Oba and Yewa, specifically in the grave. And the person who funnels in and out is Babaluaye, or San Lázaro, who brings the bodies. So it's ironic, because, you know, Oba kind of always looked at OYA and said, hey, look what you did to me, and now look where you are. You know, and they had to look at each other all the time. So once again, OYA, you know, it showed a little bit of her impetuousness. It showed that, you know, another thing is OYA is actually recognized as one of the younger feminine deities. I mean,
I was just about to ask you that. Is she an older one or a younger one? She's
actually viewed as younger. I mean, this pataki kind of views 𝗀𝗃 as an older woman, or an older sister. And then if you look at the Odu Ifá, it speaks of when Ochung and OYA had a fruit business, and things were going very well, so well that they were actually assaulted, right? And they were actually going to take advantage of OYA. And instead of doing that, Ochung manipulated them into being with her instead, to protect OYA's womanhood, right? And you know, Ochung became pregnant from the situation, and OYA said, I'll raise the child as if it's mine, you know? And that's why 𝗀𝗃𝗃 says, no hay Ochung sin OYA, ni OYA sin Ochung. That's why we, the children of Ochung are born with Oya. When we initiate into Oya into Ochung in the 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 context, Oya is one of the deities along with 𝗀𝗏𝗋 that comes in. There was always very positive interactions between Oya and Ochung, always. And if there wasn't, it was because of 𝗀𝗲𝗹. You know, God bless him. But there's other Odus as well. Like when you look at the Odu 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗏, when Ochung was accused of being infidelitous to 𝗀𝗲𝗏 and having triplets, she actually left her children with Oya. And Oya tried her best to take care of the kids, but being that she only had 2, breasts, she couldn't give the third one the attention he required, who was 𝗿𝗏𝗋, and he ultimately transitioned due to lack of nutrition, right?
No.
But once again, when we talk about maternity, Oya had a very maternal presence. I mean, when you look at a buffalo, whether it's the more common American one or the one that you see in Africa, a very maternal animal. It was really a mother's mother. I mean, she would grow a beard if she needed to provide for her kids and protect her kids. That fierce maternal protective instinct that comes from Oya as well. And she learned it possibly from Ochung because of what Ochung was willing to give to protect her. And if you look at the Odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗏, it speaks of when actually Oya was married to 𝗀𝗏𝗋 at the river, right? And they kind of lived there. And if you look at the Odu of 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗍, it was actually where Oya saved 𝗀𝗏𝗋, because 𝗀𝗏𝗋 was a gentleman that was a little abrasive. He was a little bit of a bully. He was a little arrogant. He liked to throw his weight around. And because of it, the other guys in the village said, yo, we're going to off him. It's time for him to go. He has no respect. So they basically pulled like a Shrek or a Frankenstein, and they all started chasing him with pitchforks, like, we're going to kill you. So he started out running them, but, everybody gets tired. So he was taking a breath in the middle of the jungle, and Oya was there, and she's like, what's up with you? And he's like, yo, they're going to kill me. I think I've misbehaved. And she's like, all right, well, how about this? Let's switch clothes and run in opposite directions. And when he did that, Oya dressed as a man, which was a pretty common thing. And 𝗀𝗏𝗋 dressed as a woman, and he put on a skirt of 9 colors, and he kept running. And when the attackers saw Oya, they thought it was 𝗀𝗏𝗋, and they went running after her. But when they caught her, they're like, you're not 𝗀𝗏𝗋. She's like, I know. And actually, they met up later, and they actually started a relationship. That's why Oya plays such a huge role in 𝗀𝗏𝗋's initiatory rites and vice versa. But there's this really amazing concept, and you know the movie Sinners, right? Yep. Still haven't had a chance to see it. Oh. Forgive me, Michael B. And but there's a concept there where what's his name? Smoke.
Yep. Smoke and Stack.
Yeah, Stacks was the more Italian one, like from North Side, and I think, or vice versa. He was more flashy one, and then Smoke was like more Irish influenced or whatever. And there's an amazing concept. I think his wife's name was Perline. Yep. Yeah, I've been watching too many shorts. I just need to watch the movie. And but the concept there, when you look at that parallel, is the woman protecting the man. When we look at Afro-descendant people, whether it's in the Caribbean, the motherland, New World, United States, the feminine stability and foundation that women have provided, it was always the women protecting the men. We have this false assumption that men actually protect women. Now, don't misconstrue me. We protect each other in different ways, but the way a woman protects a man has to learn how to do that, where a woman does it very naturally. Like if you look in the movie, she's doing hoodoo for him, she's getting him prepped, she's protecting him, she represents all that he never had. And Oya did that for a lot of different relationships and men. She did it for 𝗀𝗲𝗏, which is the marketplace protecting the palace. She did it for 𝗀𝗏𝗋 when she gave the skirt to be able to protect him spiritually, where those cloths represent, her protection. It's a really comforting concept of the maternal, support and protection that has always been innate within our culture and all of the ones that derive from it. Oya is seen as one of the younger deities for sure. They say that her first date was with Obaluaye, and she really was enamored with him. I mean, to the point where if you look at the Odu of 𝗿𝗏𝗍𝗏 or 𝗿𝗏𝗋𝗏, or Iruekun as it's known, You know, she lived at the gate of the cemetery, and she would always receive 𝗵𝗸𝗶𝗍 into the gate to be able to deposit the body. It's a metaphor for, you know, when they were in a relationship, and she was very happy with San Lázaro because, you know, he was able to alleviate all her frustration with having this newfound kingdom that she knew nothing about, that she had got tricked into getting. Oh yeah, right? Really tumultuous love life. Otherwise, I mean, originally they say she was married to Ogun. Ogun was a workaholic. She wanted to actually be much more emotional and spend more time and things like that. You know, Ogun was kind of monetized at that point. He was like, I just need to provide and protect and whatever, not realizing that, you know, husbandry takes so many other facets to keep a happy wife and home. You know, she started having a wavering eye for 𝗀𝗃, who had negative intentions because he wanted to avenge his father, 𝗵𝗸𝗲𝗏, based on Ogun's improper and unvirtuous actions in the Odu Ifá. So they say that this epic that now ensues from this love triangle is, you can find in 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲, 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗏, and 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗲, actually. You know, where Ogun and 𝗀𝗃 started a war in 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗲 over OYA. Where Olofin, you know, had to step in and say, hey, I got to mediate this because you guys are going to destroy the world. I can't have that. And he asked OYA, he said, who are you happy with? She said, I want to be with 𝗀𝗃. You know, he left his wife, I left my husband. You know, it's us. And Olofin looked at Ogun and said, my son, I'm sorry, but, you know, she doesn't want to be with you no more. Whether you want to grant the divorce or not, like, you know, it is what it is. And he said, no, I'm not granting the divorce, and she can go, but I cursed her to never be able to give 𝗀𝗃 a child. And they say that, you know, they tried for like 9 years to, it's a very indicative number, 9 years to have a child. Because some people say that OYA, up until that point, had already had 8 sons with Ogun, right? And she was trying to have a baby with 𝗀𝗃 for the longest, and she couldn't. And, you know, she was getting a little frustrated because in some versions she had the kids with Ogun, and other versions she didn't. And she's like, yo, I want to have a kid, like, or I want to have a kid with you, or I want to have a kid with your bloodline. And 𝗀𝗃 said, I don't know how we're going to be able to remove the curse from Ogun, but if the bloodline is what you're worried about, or that legitimacy for the son to come, you know, maybe we could reach out to my brother Orishas. And basically what ended up happening is to be able to solidify that and give the boy legitimacy, OYA had a son with 𝗀𝗃's brother, Orishas, who was the king of 𝗃𝗏, right? And that's an interesting concept as well, because 𝗃𝗏 is a land as well. So when you see a name like Ifá 𝗃𝗏 or 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲 𝗃𝗏, whether it's given to a son of 𝗀𝗃, etc., it's not only saying king of the stars, it's saying the king from the land of 𝗃𝗏, being that Orishas was his brother in the Odu Ifá. You know, OYA became impregnated by Orishas, thus giving, you know, her the legitimate child that she was looking for within that bloodline, and birthed him. And they say that who came from that encounter was Egungun, right? So it's just really wild because she might have had the son with 𝗀𝗃 in some versions. Sometimes 𝗀𝗃 was Orishas' stepfather. I mean, Egungun's stepfather. It's a real soup salad, to be honest with you. It's really just antiquitous Jerry Springer. But, you know, there's a bunch of really interesting things that happened here, because when you look at all of the spaces in nature that each of these Orishas represent, Orishas represents the earth, right? 𝗀𝗃 is thunder, lightning, right? And then OYA is the wind, and then Ogun is the metal. So when the wind and the electricity get together, somehow it creates this moisture rain thing, right? So it represents the unity between 𝗀𝗃 and OYA in heaven. And this is actually where OYA also became a water deity, and with the rains started filling the rivers, right? 𝗀𝗃 is actually, you know, popularly seen as an Orisha of fire. He actually acquired that through magic and through his medicines and whatnot, but he really is the Orisha of rain, you know? And he was able to manifest that together with OYA and all the elements she represented, and the rain would come down, and Ogun, representing the hoe, opening up the hole, right, or the oxen, as far as being able to open things up, through the trail and whatnot, leading to the holes where things could be planted. Through that hole being open, the water fell in it and thus sprang from Orisha Egungun, because Egungun emanates from the dirt. He emanates from the earth, right? So it's this huge theatrical, procreation, right? So when you look at Oya, it shows another aspect of her. And once again, just being a woman or an Orisha that really didn't take no for an answer, and it's debatable as far as her methods, but, her persistence, you got to recognize it, right? Because of this, she's recognized as a fabulous mother. In the Odu Ifá, she acquired the title of Oyansang or Oyansang, which means mother of 9, where it speaks of, Egungun being born, the 9 sticks of Isang Egungun. It even speaks of when her relationship with Shango turned very toxic, and she had to leave him because he was becoming physical. And who actually assisted her was her father, 𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗏, who she has a very close connection to as well, where they eat a lot of the similar animals, which is explained in the Odu Ifá. But she was able to run away from Shango by throwing a ram or hopping off of the ram that she used to be able to run away from him. But him being, as quick as lightning, he was catching up, and she hopped off the ram, and he ran into the ram and ate the ram, and forgot about her. And she realized at that point, maybe he didn't love me as much as I thought, because he got distracted by a ram rather than coming after me. So she left. Now not having a food source, in Osabara, where she was going hungry, 𝗶𝗸𝗏 actually gave her the black goat, right? Because he wasn't a fan of it because of the color. And also, if you look at the story in 𝗃𝗏𝗶𝗍, where, 𝗃𝗏𝗶𝗍 took 𝗶𝗸𝗏's goat and he ended up having to switch it, it makes perfect sense why, he got rid of it in Osabara. It's really wild how the Patakis and the Odus, when you start studying different ones and connecting these dots, you realize they were all around each other and really facilitated each other's process. So in Osabara is why she eats black animals, ideally, because it was 𝗶𝗸𝗏's, I won't say leftovers, but he didn't like them. They were incompatible with him. He was allergic to them. So, but it speaks of her once again as a daughter, being in that aspect of being a really wonderful daughter, whether it was to Olofing or 𝗶𝗸𝗏 and all of the things she had went through. I mean, as far as the betrayal with Yemaya, once again, going back to the Odu Ifá, Shango started even having a wavering eye with someone other than her. She began to realize, the same thing he did to Oba for me, he's doing to me for Yemaya, right? And Yemaya would come and visit and all these different things, and the ram was there, and in some versions he was a witness to it or he was consuming it. Either way, OYA actually set up for her sister Yemaya to be murdered, and she knew that Yemaya would visit when OYA would go to work, so she left a hole covered with an hetera so that she would fall to her death, which she did. But when she went to heaven, Olodumare said, "You're not supposed to be dead yet." And she's like, "I don't know what happened. I went to visit Shango, and I'm here." So when he rewinded the tape, he saw what Oya did. He said, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that to your sister, but who really has the fault here is Shango. So you guys need to figure that out because I can't help you again." So when Oya came home, she expected to find a dead Yemaya in a hole and Shango waiting for her. It was the complete opposite. She walked in and they were eating together. So when she saw that, she cursed all of them and said, "I never want to be anywhere in y'all's vicinity again." And actually the ram became a taboo for her completely, to the point where she can't even be in the vicinity or the same room as a ram. It's complete and absolute 𝗍𝗏 for her. So she was somebody that loved hard. She was somebody that had a lot of passion and really strove for it. Her and Ochun's relationship was good. There's only one pataki I could think of, and I think it's in, God, Joseph, is it 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏 or 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏? You guys will let me know. But I'm leaning towards 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏. Is it 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏? I'm leaning towards 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏. Might be wrong. Might be 𝘃𝗶𝗏𝗏.
Fact check them in the comments,
please. And Oya was trying to keep Shango away from other women, and she enlisted her son Egungun to help her, and she put 9 spirits around the palace. That's why Oya is seen as the protector of the palace, because they say that the marketplace or Oya, such, for example, that of 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗀 is a metaphor for the afterlife. Like it's the barrier between this life and the next, where spirits go there to manifest. So the same way she would protect him, she would keep him holed up. So 𝗀𝗲 was afraid to go outside because they looked terrifying. So 𝗀 helped him escape so they could start a new life. And after a while, 𝗀𝗲 apologized to her and said, I love you, but there's no one I love more than OYA. And he went running back to her. You know, it's kind of like those Instagram things. If you see me getting yelled at, or someone's, if my lady's, you know, yoking me up against a wall or something like that, please don't help me. I'm exactly where I want to be. You know, so 𝗀𝗲 was a perfect example of that. You know, it was a toxic love, it was aggressive love, it was a savage love, but it was love nonetheless, man. Till this day, you know, there's a song, 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗲 𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 𝗃𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗃 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 OYA, where it speaks of just that relationship. You know, 𝗀𝗲 feared her. You know, 𝗀𝗲 is the man of OYA. You know, this, that. There's poetry that they've written about this romance. So, OYA is a warrior queen. I mean, my personal relationship with her, you know, the Odu Ifá says, no matter who you're initiated into, no matter who your mother in Orisha is, OYA is your mother. It's the famous story of when 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗃 chained her in the house, in the cave, and left her, you know, or where she came to assume her maternal responsibilities. I'll never forget my bowl from my hand of Ifá. OYA ate it, the two hands. So very special relationship there. I don't bother her too much. She's a fierce lady, man. You gotta love her. And you look at other Odus, whether it's 𝗃𝗏𝗃, 𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗃, there's a couple of them, man, where she picked up the guadañas and started cutting everybody's heads off for her kids. Oh my God. Fierce, fierce, fierce mother, fierce woman. I still stand by the most versatile. You know, and let me know what you think, guys. But definitely all those archetypes you see in all these new movies, whether it's Black Panther, the warrior one, or the woman one, you know, even Sinners, all these different films, that really progressive, aggressive, feminine, warrior type archetype, that's all OYA. They got that all from her, man. So 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃.
All right, well, let's holler at some of our warriors for the channel.
Yeah, member warriors.
Yeah, guys. Great episode, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, guys, real simple. Click on that join button right under this video. Takes you to a magical place where we have extra content for you. We've got 1,700, 1,800 videos on the channel right now. So many. And it's extra stuff. Extra videos, early videos, discounts on merch, videos just about comments you guys do. So much, much, much more. So we're sticking with the VIPs.
The VIPs.
Right? All right. So let's go with 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃.
Okay.
We got Ray V Token.
Thank you.
We got Main Crest.
Love it.
Dominic Santiago.
Dom.
Mrs. Lulu Lights.
Thank you.
Marco 2323.
VIP.
Desert Woman.
Grazie.
Mr. Bernil.
Obrigado. Right, guys, shout out to the membership program. If you know anybody who could benefit from it, let them know about it. BotanicaCandlesandMore.com is up and running for all your spiritual service and product needs. We ship. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, be sure to listen to us on the podcast, on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, etc. I heard we're in the 1% in the world.
Top 1%.
Wild stuff, you know. Be sure to subscribe, guys. Let people know about the channel. We appreciate you so much as we keep marching towards 200K. Let us know what you want us to do when we hit that milestone. And don't forget to see the light, guys. Have a great one.
Baba Joseph showed the path today. Baba knows the way, we follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines.